from the camp of the Super Eagles, with Trabzonspor forward Paul Onuachu being the latest arrival to the Super Eagles preparatory camp in Cairo, Egypt. Now, the lanky forward arrived camp on Monday afternoon, having been recalled to the Super Eagles fold by head coach Eric Chell ahead of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Now, Onuachu will hope to provide a stiff competition to talisman Victor Osimhen up front as he brings his rich goal-scoring form from his club side to the Super Eagles attacking lineup. And we know quite well he's leading the charts right there when it comes to the Turkish Super League, so we can also expect goals in the camp of the Super Eagles. Now, the team's camp opened over the weekend as officials were the first to arrive, and then a few players trickled in after goalkeepers Francis Uzoro and Stanley Nwabali were joined by midfielders Ebenezer Akinsanmiro and Fisayo Dele Bashiru. More players are expected to arrive camp as the team officially begins preparations for the AFCON Cup of Nations. Meanwhile, new Super Eagles invitee Ebenezer Akinsanmiro, in an exclusive interview with TVC News, expressed his delight at being called up to the national team, as well as having the opportunity to represent Nigeria on the continent's biggest stage, among others.
I'm not expecting it. So, because I was first call up, like doing the qualifier for the World Cup, I was called up. Then I got injured. So when they called me up, when I just see the invitation, like, to be honest, like, I call like someone who is closer to me, then I start to cry, because it has been my dream for so long. I've been like trying to play for national team for the 20 and might also football
against Tanzania next week.
Okay, I'll get your thoughts on other updates from the camp in a bit. Let's take a breather right now. When we come back, we have more to discuss with TVC Sports editor Promise Efoge, who is in camp with the Super Eagles at this point in time.
TVC Sports.
Thank you very much for staying tuned. We're still definitely, in terms of the African Cup of Nations, the focus for most Nigerians will be Group C, as I said earlier, where Nigeria will take on Tunisia, Tanzania, and Uganda, and preparations are in top gear right there in Cairo, Egypt, which is the preliminary base of the Super Eagles at this point in time. TVC Sports editor Promise Efoge is in camp and is bringing us up to speed with the latest from the players and the officials as well. We know quite well that Paul Onuachu has arrived camp. How many players do we have in camp at this point in time, and who are the arrivals, or who are the expected arrivals in camp?
All right, Paul Onuachu is the 12th player to arrive the Super Eagles camp. I earlier reported that we have 11, and they include the very first arrival, Francis Uzoro, Stanley Nwabali, Fisayo Dele Bashiru, Amaso Basugie, Akinsanmiro, Ebenezer, Shemia Jaya, Demola Lukman, Bright Osai Samuel Igo Obu, who is making a return after some months out with injury. Tochukwu Nnadi is also a new invitee. Zaidu Sanusi arrived very early Monday morning at about 4 a.m. Local time. And Paul Onuachu is the 12th man in the fold. 4 more players are expected this evening before training would beckon. Captain Wilfred Ndidi, Calvin Bassi, Alex Iwobi, and Frank Onyeka have touched down in Cairo as we speak. They are still very much at the airport trying to, get their bags and get every logistics right. And afterwards, they will head down to camp. We'll have a training session this evening, 8 p.m. local time at the Cairo International Stadium, same venue where the test game against Egypt will be played on Tuesday night.
Okay, let's talk about the players, and the mood in camp. 12 players, you said, and there will be a training session this evening. We know quite well that the squad has been marred with injuries of late, especially the shock retirement as well of former captain William Troost-Ekong. What's the mood like in camp, and are the players really feeling the pressure of over 200 million Nigerians in terms of the expectations of Nigerians for them to deliver this time around?
Well, pressure is part of the game. These are professional players who deliver week in, week out for their clubs. national team football is periodical. When you play for big clubs across Europe, you would understand the importance of playing at this level. Pressure is part of the game. At club level, you are expected to deliver every weekend. When you bring that mentality to the national team, it's a lot easier to cope. The Nations Cup is just a few days away. Remember the last time we competed at this tournament, the Super Eagles got to the final. I think what's just on the mind of these players is to go one better, and knowing fully well that the disappointment of not qualifying for the World Cup is still lingering in the heads and hearts of Nigerians. They want to go one step better and perhaps ameliorate that disappointment by, perhaps winning the Africa Cup of Nations this time. It would be a very difficult task. It might be a tough mountain to climb, but is it possible? Yes, it is possible, because Nigeria has got a plethora of superstars, a plethora of players who can do the job at this level. You talked about injuries. Olaino has always been a key figure for the Super Eagles. He will not be available until sometime next year. But in his absence, Ryan Alebioshu, the man who's won MVPs for Blackburn Rovers week in, week out in the English Championship, is coming in to replace him. We still have Bright Osai Samuel in that position. And so, irrespective of the injury worries, I think Coach Eric Chelsea has got options in every department, and he will be looking at those options, especially with a test match against Egypt later tomorrow, to see how he can fine-tune his lads for the tournament.
Okay, reports have surfaced, in the media over the past 1 hour that Coach Eric Chelsea has appointed Wilfred Ndidi as the captain of the side, the new captain. I heard you also say Captain Wilfred Ndidi when you talked about players expected in camp, and we've also heard that the likes of Moses Simon and Alex will be the assistants. Can you confirm that to us authoritatively?
Well, the moment Trust Ekong retired, Wilfred Ndidi immediately became the captain, because under Eric Chelsea, Trust had been the captain, and Wilfred Ndidi had been the first vice captain. Just like when you have a president of a nation leave his post, the vice president automatically becomes the president. And so in the absence of William Trust Ekong due to retirement, the first vice captain under same manager, if there was a change of management, if there was a change of coach, then there would have been a conversation who would be the next captain, because coaches would have their preferences, coaches would have their choices. But under Eric Chelsea, it was Trust Ekong as captain, Wilfred Ndidi as first vice captain, Moses Simon as second vice captain. And so under same management, once the captain leaves, the first vice captain automatically becomes the captain. And so that was why I wasn't mincing words when I said Captain Wilfred Ndidi, because in Trust Ekong's absence, he becomes the captain.
Okay. Well, we know quite well that, the competition is taking place mid-season when it comes to domestic leagues across Europe. So some of these players may be the wear and tear on the body. Are there any injury concerns Nigerians should know about just before I let you go?
When Eric Chelsea delayed in releasing his provisional list and ditto his final list, there were a lot of, talks. Why is it taking so much time? What is the federation hiding? What is Eric Chelsea hiding? The French coach needed to be very careful in ensuring that at the time he's releasing his final list, he's submitting names of players that will be fit and ready for the tournament, and that was exactly what he did. And so every name you find in the 26-man final list are available for selection. Every man on that list have no injury concerns, and so there is nothing to worry about as far as injuries are concerned. It's mid-season, like you said. The players have been playing for their clubs. We saw them over the weekend. With Ndidi, we saw Calvin Bassey score a goal. We saw Victor Osimhen score. Paul Onuachu was also on the scorer's sheet. Across the board, these guys were all in action just a few hours ago at the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They were all in action for their clubs. And so none of them, got injured. We all saw that. And so if there was any report of injury, I would have been the first to make mention of that. So every person on that list is fit and ready to go.
Okay, we'll just, see how things pan out really in terms of, the players and the training session this evening. Promise Afoge, TVC Sports Editor, thank you so much for your time on show this evening.
Thank you, Samson.
Thank you so much. Well, we know quite well that the Super Eagles are intensifying preparations for the big one, and one player is excited about his recall to the squad. That's goalkeeper Francis Uzor, who is making a return after about a 2-year absence